Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist. We end every episode with Darcy answering a question from a listener about her psychic process. Whatever is going on in her head, I think it's so cool and astonishing. Okay, well, before I let you go, if you're game, I'll give you a listener's question.
Alrighty.
Okay, this is an interesting one. It's from Claire, who dropped us a line to ask whether, Darcy, do you think it's certain geographic locations lend themselves to crime and or supernatural activities?
That is a good question. Certain places that crimes are repeated over and over in the, I'll say within a 50-mile radius. And so yes, I do believe there are areas that draw people who are more prone to commit crime. And geographic, well, because there are ley lines out there, and I don't know enough about them, but I know ley lines have an impact on people.
Yeah, no, these are the lines you're talking about. I believe I've heard of them in Great Britain, for sure.
Yeah.
They have some kind of special energy. This is what the understanding is.
But we have them here, too.
Do we have ley lines?
I do believe so, or else we have vortexes or something where you get a certain funny energy, and it can either make you dizzy, high, or extremely lackadaisical.
Well, do you think that ley lines, or are you describing ley lines as an example of geographic locations that have kind of interesting impacts on people?
Yeah.
Not necessarily murderous impacts or criminal impacts?
Yes, all kinds of impacts.
Oh, okay. Would you say then that when you talk about sometimes crimes are committed in the same, within the 50-mile region, what's happened in that region to cause that, do you think?
There could have been a split in energy, and that if you're a little unbalanced, that energy can sort of take you over.
Okay.
I don't think it happens everywhere, but I do feel there are areas that... Have you ever gone into a house and you walk in the house and all of a sudden you just feel like angry and like you want to storm out? And to me, that's the energy that has been left there. And so the same kind of energy can be left where people are murdered, where people die naturally, where people have accidents. You ever drove down the road and all of a sudden you got goosebumps and you don't know why, and there's a cross on the side of the road?
Yeah.
Because the energy is still there.
So we've talked in the past about saging a house to sort of neutralize the energy. Do you think this kind of energy that can pile upon itself, build and build and build?
I think it can. I've heard of people that say they feel this influence or impulse to do something that they normally wouldn't do. So I do think that energy can build, especially if something happens over, a house that people buy, and every time a married couple buys it, they end up divorced. Next married couple, divorce. It's an energy that's left behind, whether it's positive or negative.
And it affects the new people coming in.
Yes.
So if we can extrapolate that and say, for example, a supernatural phenomenon, could that build on itself over the years to become, a larger essence or a larger occurrence?
Yes, people do believe that can happen.
And do you think, let's say there's a house where there has been a horrific murder or crime, do you think that house could be party to another and then another because of the negative energy that was left there?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So would you buy a murder house, i.e. a house where someone had been murdered in it? Or a violent crime committed?
It's always the first question I ask when I go to buy a house.
What's the first question?
My first question is, has anyone died in this house?
You actually asked that?
I do. I ask every time.
I've never asked that question ever. Now, when you say that, are you thinking in your mind, the old mother died at 98 in the bed, or are you thinking someone got whacked on the head?
Any kind.
Any kind?
Yep. I need to know if someone died in the house before I will even walk into it.
And why you need to know that?
Because I don't want to pick up their energy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't want that energy to reside within me or around my daughter, so I always have to check.
And if they say yes, what do you do?
Well, I won't go in, or I'll put a barrier around myself before I go in. I definitely wouldn't buy it. Not unless it was saged by some head to toe and around, up and down sort of idea.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. As I say, I would never have thought of that. And certainly it's not that common these days. It must have been far more common in the older days, though people were dying at home, often. Yes. But nowadays, not nearly so often at all.
Well, that's why when you go over to Britain and you go into the old homes, it's like, holy cow, that's actually where I learned. You need to ask before you move in.
Well, you probably couldn't go into a house of any age in England that didn't have this happen. You wouldn't be able to buy anything.
Well, see, at that point when I was in England and Scotland, I didn't pay attention to my gift. Every time I walked in, I could feel something. And it's like, maybe you should start asking questions. So I'd start asking questions, and I'd attach the feeling to the event. So that I can always watch for it.
Have you ever been lied to?
Yeah.
Because you know the feeling, right? So you're approaching the house, you have a feeling that someone has died here, and when you ask the question and they lie, you know they're lying.
Yep.
What do you...
You know the
Amityville? Yep, the horrors?
That house?
Yep.
You would never get me in it, ever.
You wouldn't get me in it either, but I wouldn't have any sense of it. I just know not to go in there because it was a horror house.
Yeah, but when I see the front of the house, before I actually even knew what it was, when I saw the way the house looked at me, I went, yeah, you'd never get me in it. And then, of course, I watched the story.
Yeah, it had that very distinctive half-circular windows, didn't it, in the front that looked almost like eyes.
Yep.
It's a scary-looking house. There's no doubt. That sort of very scary New England-looking house, that Amityville one.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to... that brings something up for next time, or one of these times. I want to talk to you about poltergeists.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thanks for your response to Claire's question. It is interesting about energy. It's never ending, and I guess it's always around, and more sensitive people might pick it up better than some, but we're all feeling it no matter what.
Well, see, that energy is the same energy that spirit leaves behind. And it doesn't mean they stay there forever. It just means they've left that one piece of them that wants to still be in that area, one, until they're recognized, or two, until they're ready to let go.
So you said until they are recognized or they're ready to let go?
Yeah.
And being recognized, how would they ever be recognized unless someone like you found them?
That's the trick.
It's a long time, eternity.
Yes, it is.
Wow. Oh, that's a deep thought. Okay. Well, thanks. That's really good. Really appreciate your time, as always, Darcy.
Okay. Well, I enjoy this very much, and I look forward to our next one.
Good. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month and will also be available every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Seeing Dead People will also be available as a downloadable podcast online at radiosidney.ca for your convenience. Cool news! Seeing Dead People is now a podcast on YouTube. Just search for Nicola Furlong Mysteries, and you will find 3 podcasts of videos dedicated to Seeing Dead People. One for our actual complete episodes, another for Darcy's fascinating answers to our listeners' questions about her psychic process, and a third with teasers highlighting each episode. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast with Goosebumps Guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.